Mother, man.
You're listening to Brutal Rewind, brought to you by your friends at Murder Metal Mayhem. We take a topic we've already covered, hog-tie it, put a ball gag in its mouth, and throw it head first into a wood chipper. What comes out is our new twist on the subject. And now, here's your Brutal Rewind. Well, there you go. Brutal Rewind number 8 here at Horns High Studios for the Horns High Podcast Network. Going good, everybody. This is definitely a different format than the usual episode. So if you've never heard one of these before, this is definitely the short and condensed version.
It is definitely short compared to what we fucking normally do. Goddamn.
Of course, I got Joey and Chris here with me, and of course, we are still trying to wrap our heads around the tough news that we got on Friday about our beloved CK passed away at his home in Danbury, Connecticut that morning on Friday. So this is, Brutal Rewind that's different, and we weren't going to have CK on this one.
We normally
actually,
don't on the Brutal Rewinds anyway, but still.
Yeah, it's so weird how it happened, and so as difficult as this is to do with CK being gone, and we're sitting here in the studio and looking over at CCK, Cardboard CK.
Looking out.
I'm like, man, CK would have been like, get the fuck up and dust yourselves off.
Yeah.
And just get back to doing what you do.
Right.
So,
hell yeah, he would have.
So that's what CK would have done. So we're doing it. And we're in here. And we are going to do a much more in-depth discussion about CK in
next week
episode
on a regular
156.
episode instead of the rewind, yeah.
Yeah, so we wanted to do it justice, not in a Brutal Rewind. That's a much shorter version of the show. So next week, episode 156, the entire metal segment will be about CK. But, for now, I just wanted to mention it because obviously CK's gone and it's a big thing. But, we need a little bit of time to process it, and it just worked out the way the schedule did that we're doing this. So this was already, in the cards. Brutal Rewind number 8. Chris, it's short and condensed.
Very short. No metal, no mayhem. Just talking a little story of the podcast we did before, just coming back to just revisit it a little bit.
Yeah, revisit it. Maybe some new thing happened or breakthrough in the case, Man, the Gacy case just keeps coming back that they identified another victim. That would be the perfect example of doing a Brutal Rewind on Gacy, that kind of thing. And I think we already did one on Gacy, so you actually do another one with more victims as they find. I think there's 5 still left out there.
Right. But
these are 30 minutes long typically, and so much shorter, as Chris said, just touching on a topic we've done before. Now, this one that we're doing is about the crazy case of the Watseka Wonder. Many people outside of our area may not know much about it, and even people from here.
Until we did the original episode, I had never heard of it.
Yeah, I don't remember where I heard it from, but I had to go up to Watseka quite a bit for my job. So I've been up there many, many times and know a lot of people from up there.
And a lot of people that wouldn't know, probably even if you're not from Illinois, where Watseka is. It is northern Illinois by Chicago suburb.
Right. Yeah, it's like 2 hours northeast of where we are right now.
Right.
So probably an hour or so from Chicago.
Yeah.
But out in the middle of nowhere. It's a small town.
But they be gangbanging, though.
Apparently. Even those of us here in Illinois may not be too familiar with this one. But it's part of our creepy October episodes. We've been doing some crazy shit, Chris. We did Aleister Crowley. We did the witchcraft episode. Did Dark History Convention preview. And now this one. And speaking of Dark History, that was this past weekend. Definitely going to talk more about that in episode 156. Now, Chris, we did this case before. I had to really dig back, dude. Episode 34.
Yeah, that was fucking very early, dude.
Very much, yeah. Please Pass the Possession is the name of it. From December of 2018. So only 5 months in, we did this one. And we thought since Joey had recently done that page a day, be a good one to do again, especially for October, Chris. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, definitely.
Now, Joey, before reading the page a day, you said you weren't familiar with the case?
Not too much, except, I had even forgot that you guys did an episode on it, but I obviously listened to it when you did it.
Yeah.
But, once I saw the page a day, it was like, that's whenever I really paid attention to what I was reading, I guess.
Right.
I was probably smoking a bunch of weed when I heard that episode. Because what did you say it was, like number 34? Yeah, I mean, that's a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
But, I wasn't like as familiar. Now I fucking know the case because I fucking looked into it twice now for the page a day and for this episode, the Brutal Rewind. But.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely a more obscure one for really anybody other than maybe people from Watseka.
To be honest, of like all the ghost story shit that I hear, because I like ghost stories and stuff, but I'm a big skeptic and I don't believe too much what I hear. But as far as a lot of the ones that I've heard, this one ranks up there with some of the more unexplainable.
Oh yeah,
that I've ever read. Like
there's
even
things about
more
it that's fucked up.
Amityville or the Exorcist.
Oh yeah,
even.
there's a lot of parts of this that make you really wonder.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, the Brutal Rewinds are short, so let's get to it. Going to give a little bit of a summary because we got listeners, I'm sure, that didn't hear episode 34 since that's been so long ago. And, Chris, you and I were just doing this upstairs in my bedroom, dealing with barking dogs and all the other shit we were dealing with
every
back then.
fucking time. Fucking goddamn Son of Sam outside freaking out.
Yeah, and I looked, and CK did his feature on Venom for that episode, which is badass. So that would be a good one to check out, episode 34.
And now we got the fucking Venom Sick Rick mask in the studio.
That's right. Yeah. And the Venom family, spelled differently. But that was, I remember,
true. Yeah.
Chris, when we did that, because I told CK how fucked up is that, because he didn't know that.
Yeah, he just did Venom.
So it was just a
coincidence
of many coincidences we've run into here. The case can get a little bit confusing. So it starts with a teenager. Her name was Mary Roff, R-O-F-F. She's living in the town of Watseka, Illinois. She's having issues with some seizures at the time. They really didn't know how to treat that sort of thing back then. She was also cutting herself, which is interesting, Chris, because I
fucking
never
emos back then, dude.
Right, I never heard of people doing that until when the emos were doing their cutting.
The emos.
The emos.
Yeah, the emos. I remember that joke. I was going to get a emo grass so it would cut itself.
Yeah. I wish my grass was emo so it would cut itself up.
Yeah, there you go. Her family also claimed that she went into trances. And she was seen by several doctors, but, this is in the 1800s, so they're, confusing.
Their medical knowledge is not very good.
No. But, they wound up putting her in an asylum, and I heard incorrectly, somebody said that she was put at the Peoria Hospital there in Bartonville.
Right.
But that couldn't be possible because it wasn't open yet. So when I did my research, I saw she was in the Jacksonville, Illinois asylum. But that would have been a common thing back then. They put people in asylums for all kinds of crazy shit.
Oh, yeah.
So. But she died there in 1865. So
your dick don't work no more? You're fucking insane.
Right? Yeah, there's that list. You've probably seen it before of all the shit you could be put in the asylum for. Like crazy shit.
What?
Back talking your husband, like shit like that. Like, yeah, it's pretty fucked up. Females don't typically like hearing that sort of thing.
No, not at all.
Nowadays, that's for sure. 12 years later, though, 1877, a 13-year-old girl, also from Watseka, named Lurency Venom. Very strange first name, Lurency.
That is a weird name.
And they called her Rancy, apparently, which isn't much better. Venom spelled V-E-N-N-U-M, so not the same as the band Venom, but it was still cool that CK picked that.
Right.
Also suffering from the same types of fits and seizures as Mary Roff did. Her family said that she spoke with the dead and she spoke to angels.
She said, like, come back, say she was in heaven and shit like that.
Oh, yeah,
like,
right.
All fucking crazy.
Yeah. And this is, of course, met with lots of skepticism, understandably so. When the Roth family heard about Lurency's spells and seizures, they reached out to the Venom family and begged them not to put her in an asylum like they did with their dog.
Right.
So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, like, we've seen this before. We know what's going to fucking happen.
I mean, as fast
Right.
as Lurency was deceased or, whatever happened, like, yeah, you have to feel as a parent, part of you thought you were doing the right thing.
Right.
Put her in this place, and all of a sudden she's fucking gone.
She dies, yeah. That
So
would be
so then
horrible.
you see somebody else going through the exact same thing,
Right.
and they didn't have any connection.
No.
These two families had
No.
zero connection.
No.
So the
Yeah,
fact they came to them when, like, no, we know what you're talking about right now.
This has happened to us.
Yeah,
Like,
and like you said, they pled for them not to put their child in there.
Right. So they also recommended a doctor, a spiritualist, and this is another one of those first initial things that I love. Dr. E. Winchester Stevens. So
that's what's up.
he just sounds like this great big dude that smokes cigars or pipes, Dr. E. Winchester Stevens.
It sounds like somebody that does his farming in a fucking 3-piece suit.
Totally. With a whole bunch of Pyritol laying around. He met with Lurency, and she told him, the doctor, that she was surrounded by many spirits, so he asked her to reach out to one that seemed good, and it was the spirit of Mary Roth that possessed the body of Lurency Venom, or so
Like,
the story goes.
Yeah, and she, like, knew fucking people's names and shit that there's no
Yeah.
way she would be able to know. And she, like, basically lived as Mary for, like, a couple of years or some shit, didn't
No,
she?
it was a
think
few
it was
months,
3
but
months.
still, it was
yeah,
a
that's what
while.
it was. Yeah, but it was a
Still,
while.
like, she lived exactly this
Right.
other girl's
Yeah, went
life.
to, like, even went to the wrong house when she
Yeah.
was supposed to be going to the Lawrence's house. She went to Mary's house from when she was alive and shit. Like,
Right, and
didn't
she
even
knew relatives like
Yeah,
of,
that there's
of
no way she
Mary,
should have
that
been
there's
able to
no
know.
way she would have known these people.
yeah, and apparently didn't even know who her own family was.
Right.
Like, so it was really fucked up.
It
we
is
haven't
really
described
fucked up.
all this yet, but we're getting to it. Like,
Yeah.
the fact that she's about to be taken out of her one home and
Right.
go to another. Like,
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Joey Lurency was also able to do things like tell what was in a letter before it was opened. Those types of things. They were doing demonstrations to show that she had some sort of ability like that. And
Right.
some of the things she did were kind of uncanny,
yeah, it was very spooky shit, really. And I mean, any skeptic can look at this and be like, "Oh man, how much of this could have been staged?" And because
Right,
some of the
yeah.
some of the greatest hoaxes, like we're talking about, the Amityville.
Amityville, yeah.
I mean, they put real thought and effort into making those hoaxes appear to be real, so people did
Right.
believe in them. And even back then, when people were more, fucking open to susceptibility, I guess,
Right.
easier to make people believe stuff. But still, like some of that stuff, and if it's factually correct on what they're claiming, yeah, like her reading the letters and just a lot of that stuff just is like unexplainable.
Right.
That's the only
No,
way I
it
can
really
put it.
is.
Yeah.
So as we said, Lurency is allowed to live at the Roth home for a period of time. He said a few months.
She said that she liked all the people, that she was living with, but she didn't really know them, so she wanted to go home.
Yeah,
That's what
right.
she's saying.
Yeah, that's
like,
what she's saying.
She's like,
Yeah.
you were all nice people, and she was polite about it. She's
Right.
like, but I would rather go home.
Right.
Like
And that
Chris
was back-
said, they take her and they drive back to their house. They're like, okay, and they agree, and they drive home. They pass the house that she lived in before, and she was like, but isn't
yeah.
that her home? But they had already
But they moved
Oh,
after
wow.
Mary had died.
Yeah, they
so,
moved. So,
Oh,
like,
wow.
they're
Like,
like,
how
oh,
did-
well, that
how
was
would you-
our house, but how would you know that?
Yeah, how
That's
would
true.
she fucking
Yeah.
know that's the house they lived in
Interesting.
before?
Forgot about that. Also, I thought it was crazy that she was able to play piano like Mary did, but Lurency did know how to play piano. Very, very interesting. And something I read, but I couldn't find it again, so maybe I'm just ate up. But that she actually played a song that Mary wrote on the piano. and she was able to play the
original.
tune,
Yeah.
and she would have not known that.
Right.
Like, that's fucked up.
Yeah, playing the piano.
The melody or whatever was the same.
Yeah, and like you said, it wasn't just a song that fucking Mary had learned. It was a song she had created herself.
Right, exactly. Like if she wrote the song. Yeah.
And I can't remember the name now, but whenever the parents first came over, Mary Roth's parents first came over to the Venom house, they told a couple of their other, relatives about it. Her aunt and I think sister or something like that, Mary's. And then when they came walking up the road, the Venom girl as Mary was like, "Oh, I can't remember the name she used, but she used a name that only Mary had called this lady.
Right.
Her aunt, I believe, is who it was.
Yes, I think it was.
And she ran right up to her and gave her a big hug and called her by this name. And that lady was just like,
wow.
Oh my God,
That's fucked up. Yeah. So a lot of really weird things. Now, she tells the Roth family on May 7th of 1877 that Mary would leave her body on May 22nd at 11 p.m. So very specific.
Lawrence came back on that day.
And exactly at that time on that day, Lawrence went back to herself. She told the Roth she would rather go home,
go back,
which is weird because that's what she said before. And so she went back home and apparently wasn't having the issues with the spells and the feigning, and she winds up getting married. She winds up moving away and has 11 fucking children.
How did you get married after that? Like, no, you're crazy, dude.
Right?
She had a lot of kids, which, that's a lot of kids, but everything
Back
else,
then, that was common.
True. But everything else about her life, after that incident, she lived a completely
totally
normal and
normal,
happy life.
Yeah. So
That's
really, really fascinating with that whole situation. Dr. E. Winchester Stevens kept a journal of his conversations with Lurency, and it was published into a book named The Watseka Wonder. I'm neglectful. I did not bring my copy out here because I do have one.
Right.
It's very thin. It's like a little more than a pamphlet.
Did you have it when you guys did the original
I
episode?
believe so.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, because I got it when we did. I bought the book when we did the Night Shop because Troy Taylor wrote the book,
Right.
or put the book together.
Who did the fucking Starved Rock book, right?
No, that was Steve Stout.
That's right. Yeah.
No, Troy
Taylor's done a ton of shit.
He does a lot of the haunted.
He did the
stuff,
Haunted Illinois,
all those books. Yeah. So he was there when we did that appearance. He spoke and did a presentation, I think, on the Watseka Wonder, if I'm not mistaken, that night.
Yeah, I'm pretty.
I think that's where I heard about it.
We heard about it because that night, that's what they were talking about.
Crazy.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, and I bought the book, and it was cool.
And that's probably, to be honest, even before your podcast, I had his book on the Haunted Illinois, so the Watseka Wonder was in there. So I had read it even before that. But like I said, it never fucking sticks in your mind some things until you really start looking into it.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting how that happens. Something takes your mind off it, and then you just forget. So there is the book that's available called The Watseka Wonder. Chris, I mean, what do you think about this whole story? I mean, definitely really interesting.
I mean, I really don't believe in that shit, but there's so much shit that went down with her.
I know, it's hard to just say no.
Say no, it didn't happen. It was all hoax, but there was just so much of it. And to go on for those months or whatever and never breaking character, I guess.
Right.
Like always Mary, like it's hard to say no, but at the same time, it's hard to say yes. Oh, well, like I said, it's fucking crazy story, man.
It is. And I agree with you 100%. I'm the same way. It's like, man, I want to say this is crazy and not true, but some of the stuff is hard to refute. Now, Joey, what do you think about it, dude?
Like I said, I mean, I've gone to so many haunted places and supposed most haunted this and that, and I love all of that shit. I'm fascinated by it. I love the backstories and everything, but I've never personally witnessed anything, and I feel like I've tried to put myself in the path, which I heard that some people, like, if you're looking too hard, you're never going to see something. Right. You know, that's the saying.
I think some people are just more susceptible to that stuff, because I am not either. I've been in a lot of those places. We've been to Shakers many times, spent the night up in the Dead Hookers Suite. Yeah. Fucking went to Bartonville multiple times. I mean, I've been to all these places, and I've been with people that have had experiences. I have not. So
yeah, and this one, though, like I said earlier, out of all the ones I've heard, this one to me is one of the most mysterious and one that I can't I couldn't figure out how to exactly call him a hoax, I guess, in my mind. There's things that I can't explain about it.
Definitely not an Amityville horror type
No,
situation.
and most of those that you read about, like the Annabelle or, anything like that, like it usually revolves around one family or one group of people. So those people can come up with this concept and
go with it. This is two families that didn't know each other.
Right. So that's like kind of like, whoa.
Yeah, and I mean, there were people that said it was a hoax. They referred to it as hysterical impersonation.
Yeah.
I'm naturally skeptic of it, but definitely
when the Lutzes moved into the Amityville house, they already knew that house was connected to the story and the murders and stuff. So anybody that had the financial position to be able to put themselves in that and work out the scheme like they did, you can do that. You can fucking pull that off.
Sure.
This is completely different than that situation. So.
I agree 100%. It definitely makes for a good spooky story.
Oh,
yeah. If you want to check out more on this, I have a friend that lives over in Hoopston, and he saw my post about this. I don't know if you saw. His name is Brad, and Brad commented and said, "Pete, next time you're out this way, I'll show you where Mary Roth is buried." I
did see that,
I saw that,
Yeah, he's the guy that used to take my classes, and he's retired. Used to work for the school district there.
Yeah, that would be cool.
So, yeah, that would be cool. So I don't know if it's like some sort of unmarked grave, or if he just
knows where it's at. Wants
to show me. I'm not sure. Super cool
he fucking
guy.
Do a fucking stone rub of the fucking headstone and shit.
That's true. Yeah,
come by, cool. Or we'll do a fucking Murder Metal Mayhem field trip.
There you go. There you go. So if you're interested in spending the night at the Roth house, the current owners are renting it out as an Airbnb. My daughter Katie had told me about this. She is into the Airbnb thing and saw it, asked me about, I think that sounds familiar. You've talked about this before.
Right.
And she's like, yeah, they want a lot of money. I don't know. I can't remember what she told me, but it's a lot more than like typically what they go for.
Yeah.
So obviously they're going with the spiritual haunted angle. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube of different ghost hunts there. So if that's your thing, go check it out. It's not a very big house, but it looks very historically preserved. It's pretty cool looking. Really big yard. It's all fenced off.
You posted the picture on.
I did
from the outside at night. Yeah,
it's pretty badass.
That picture looks badass as fuck.
Yeah, when I drove by it, this has been probably 10 years ago ish. No, that couldn't be, because how would I have known? I must have known about this before the Troy Taylor thing, because I remember going to the house and the cops were following me. And I had heard that it used to be open for tours, but the current owners didn't want any part of that.
Right.
So maybe that was when they see somebody circling around it, they're like, okay, this person's here
for this specific reason.
So they try to shoo you away. But apparently now they're renting it out. So I don't know if it's the same owners that just want the money for it or if it's new owners. But again, if it's your thing, Watseka, Illinois, the Roth House, ROFF. Anything, guys, to add to this one?
No. Pretty all right.
Yeah, good creepy stories. So don't forget to check out murdermetalmayhem.com to listen to all the past episodes. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And we always talk about our Patreon, our 666 Club.
666.
Chris, it's a good place to be. Good place to be. Get all sorts of cool perks and discounts on merch. So patreon.com/murdermetalmayhem.
We're
and
going to have a
join
fucking
$3.
Patreon only episode coming up soon.
That's right. We got a big one coming up, actually.
Hell yeah, we do.
So thanks for checking out this Brutal Rewind. We'll see you next week, and have a good one.
Fuck yeah.
Mother, man.